views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello everyone, welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Charry Executive Suite. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we shed light on Domestic Violence Awareness Month when we speak to a representative from the Urban Resource Institute, NYC. After that, we speak with psychotherapist and author Asha Tarry about her new book, Adulting as a Millennial, a guide to everything your parents didn't teach you. Then we'll get some healthy nutritional tips for the fall in preparation for flu season when we sit down with health advocate and Chef Marilyn. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And last but not least, this week's Open Artist Spotlight shines on Singer Songwriter Yurby from the Bronx, who will also present her new single, Hands Up. So, sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way, because now we are officially open. Welcome back to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online. That is, tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, you can follow me on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a time we shed light on issues affecting relationships, which has heightened during the COVID-19 pandemic. And well, there seems to be an increase of domestic violence due to quarantine. And our next guest is part of the Urban Resource Institute, which provides resources to domestic violence victims. She's here to tell us more. Please welcome Senior Vice President of Domestic Violence, Residential and Legal Programs, Jennifer White-Reid. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for your service. I'm so excited to learn more about Urban Resource Institute. I myself am a domestic violence survivor. I am very aware of the different levels of domestic violence. And so if you would be so kind as to just share with everyone the different types of individuals or the different types of circumstances in which you are assisting in programming.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me. And you know, in the midst of October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, it's an opportunity to raise awareness and to let people know that our doors are open, particularly during this time during a pandemic. But URI, we are a nonprofit organization based in New York City. We offer services to domestic violence victims and homeless families with a focus on communities of color. And we are the largest provider of domestic violence shelter services in the country, with the ability to serve up to 1,200 individuals. That includes adults and children every given night. And within our programs, we offer a wide array of programming, including case management, crisis counseling, advocacy and support. We do groups, we do individual sessions, we have legal services, we have economic empowerment programs, children's services, and one of our innovative projects is our People and Animals Living Safely, our PALS program.
Which I think is so awesome. That is so awesome.
Thank you. And for people who don't know, if you're a family impacted by domestic violence and you have a pet, most shelters won't accept the family with the pet. And so we recognized that this was a barrier to accessing shelter. And so our PALS program accommodates the entire family, including the pet.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it definitely makes a difference because, again, I opened up with acknowledging the fact that it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, that I'm a domestic violence survivor. And the reason I even brought that up is because I think it's important that people understand the different levels of domestic violence. And while you offer all these programs, I wonder if some people even realize that they're in a domestic violent relationship because allowing it to lead up to the physical act of domestic violence is actually something that could be prevented if you're even aware. I personally come from not even realizing that I was in a domestic violent relationship based on emotional abuse and psychological abuse. And there's also the financial abuse, which I know you wanted to discuss and elaborate further because this is the time where obviously we're all in some sort dealing with some kind of financial abuse, and to deal with it on an intimate level, I'm sure is mentally challenging.
Absolutely. Domestic violence is a pattern of behavior in an intimate relationship where one partner exerts power and control over another partner. And that's done by a variety of tactics. And that could include physical violence, which is probably what everybody sees as domestic violence. But it also includes psychological abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. Being, name calling every day really impacts your self-esteem. And then economic abuse is something that I think a lot of survivors do not realize that they're experiencing. According to the data, 98% of victims of domestic violence experience economic abuse. And that could be your perpetrator impacted your credit report, so now your score is low. It could be that your perpetrator prevented you from working, so now you have no financial resources. It could be that you're actually working, but your abusive partner takes your money when you come home at the end of the week with your paycheck. And so those are some of the tactics that are used, but also sexual violence, which is not talked about a lot, but that is a form of domestic violence. And also, as I mentioned earlier, our PALS program highlights that even when you're in a home with a pet, an abuser may try to threaten and manipulate your feelings by hurting your animal. And we saw a significant number of clients who needed our shelter spaces because they were in those kinds of situations.
I'm just in awe over that program. I'm in awe over the fact that you've been able to find a way to incorporate a person's pet into being sheltered as well. And also, one of the other programs that really stood out for me is the self-development and the internship that you offer, which is about empowering, right? Because after being battered down, not necessarily physically, even mentally, to that place of self-doubt and lack of independence, you rebuild. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Our economic empowerment services are so critical. After experiencing abuse, you may find yourself unemployed with limited resources, limited access to education. And so what we do in our Economic Empowerment Center is we do a career exploration to assess, what do you want to do? Some people are not even given the freedom to think about what they want to do with their lives. And so we do that at the very beginning. But we also offer internship opportunities within our organization, but also within the community so that individuals can develop skills. And then we match people with employment, because that is the most important thing, is to be able to have access to financial resources so that you can be independent, rebuild your life, and be back on your journey back in the community working.
So what does it take for someone to start the process to become part of the URI programming?
So if you are in a situation where you need to flee and you want to come into shelter, you can access our shelters through the New York City Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-621-HOPE, HOPE. But you can also go to our website, urinyc.org, and learn about our services. We have contact information on our website that you can be referred to.
And You guys have been doing this for 40 years now. I understand you have a big gala about to occur virtually, of course, because we're all practicing safe distancing. But congratulations on your 40th anniversary.
Thank you for raising that, because I feel the privilege of being part of an organization that has been working in the trenches in the community for the last 40 years. And so on October 22nd at 6 o'clock, we are hosting a virtual gala, and we are excited to have your viewers register to attend, to learn about our work, to see some of our clients share their stories, and also for us to highlight the importance of our frontline workers who, in the midst of COVID-19, were in the trenches, came to work every single day. And we wanted to invest a lot of time during the gala acknowledging their bravery and their support and their courage.
That's lovely. And, you know, before we go, I know we were discussing this prior to getting on air. Just really quickly, with everything that's occurring, and to anyone who feels abused just in what we're all enduring, what would you say to them?
So if you're out there and you're feeling like you're not safe, there's a couple of things that you can do, particularly during this time where the message is to stay at home in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. You want to establish a code word, right? Because your perpetrator may be in the same room with you. And if you want to relay to your family members or friends that you're in an emergency situation and they may need to call 911 for you, establish a code word. Also, if you can, identify a small package of resources, phone numbers, keys, a little bit of cash, and put it in a bag in a safe place. So if you need to flee, you have your resources that you can access, that you can take with you. But most importantly, check in with your family members and friends so they know how you're doing, if you're able to do so.
Beautiful. Well done. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Jennifer White Reid, Senior Vice President, Domestic Violence Residential and Legal Programming at Urban Resource Institute. And you guys, once again, if you or someone you know is in need of help, you can have them call the New York City Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-621-HOPE. And the number for texting is 1-844-997-2121. And for more Urban Resource Institute information, go to urinyc.org. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about a new book that will help millennials with adulting. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Open. So millennials are faced with a different pace lifestyle, that is, which kind of, you know, it invites many challenges when it comes to adulting, whether it's choosing the right career path, staying in a relationship, or being financially stable. So our next guest is a mental health advocate, psychotherapist, and certified life coach who decided to write the book, Adulting as a Millennial, a guide to everything your parents didn't teach you. And that's to help the future generation create a meaningful life. And she's here to tell us more. Please welcome author Asha Tarry. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me, Rhina.
Well, thank you for thinking of this book that I feel personally is something that should be taught within the DOE. And I'm saying this because there's an aspect of our existence in which it should be part of our curriculum in development when going to school. And the fact that you've chosen to target the millennials, meaning obviously that's the title of your book, just in the state, they're really at risk right now with this particular state of emergency that we've been living in for the past 7 months.
Yeah, they are. And before this time, millennials were also challenged with the high rates of underemployment, high student loan debt, anxiety, and there are many reasons why, yes, I totally agree. This book should be in high schools and universities and colleges because social emotional health is something that a lot of kids do not grow up learning.
Right. And so, especially where we are right now. So, when I think of millennials, I live in denial. I like to identify myself as one. Just kidding. No. All jokes aside, I opened up with addressing the pace in which they operate because they live really fast because they have everything at their fingertips, whereas growing up we didn't. And so there's a lot of information they're being bombarded with, and there's a lot of false information they're being bombarded with, and so it becomes this issue of like, okay, they have access to a lot of information, but what do they follow? What is it that is best to use as a blueprint in how to succeed in life?
hmm Yeah, I totally agree with that. Everything is moving fast these days, and to help people to slow down is really what I'm here to do. The book and the work that I do to help people to get more centered, mindfulness work, is something that I think people are seeking, but they don't quite know where to begin. So yeah, we're creating and living in a society where having a false identity is really acceptable, and people don't exactly know oftentimes what they see, whether it is real or falsified. And that's where mental health providers come in and coaches come in to ground people in the reality of understanding values, which is partly what we talk about in the book. Integrity is one, and also how to do work and live in a way that is more meaningful, which I honestly think a lot of millennials do want. They want a meaningful life. They want a purposeful life. They just don't exactly know how to go about starting one.
So let's talk a little bit about integrity and how you identify it, because that's a very, very important word to operate by. And we are not necessarily taught the importance and relevance of operating with integrity. And not just integrity towards someone else, integrity towards yourself.
Yeah, it starts there, right? It starts where you are, understanding why your word matters, why it's acceptable in many ways to tell the truth, and how that is for a lot of us going to set us free. It's going to build relationships and trust, because when you're starting with the foundation that you have to make things up, you then have to keep that lie going. And it just builds on another lie, another lie. And ultimately, that's a part of the anxiety that most people feel, is that they have to keep up with a standard that is unrealistic and impossible. And it's part of what people come into my work doing, is working long hours, trying to compete and compare with people on social media, um, trying to live a life that they actually cannot afford. And so the mental stress and anguish that comes from that is a result of those falsified identities. And so my job is to help people to, again, get seated in who do you want to be. And it starts with understanding your principles and the kind of life you want to live, and how you want to build life with other people by starting with the honesty that is required to do that.
Right. And so I would imagine you've been very busy in the past couple of months with telehealth, right? Because you're able to do it with people in the intimacy of their home. And in addition to that, I think we've all pivoted to another state of being, in just opening up a consciousness that we might not have necessarily paid so much attention to, moving at the fast pace of coming and going, right? So yes, we're addressing the fast pace with the fingers. However, now there's this pause that we've all been forced to do, and that leaves us wondering, well, what really matters?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are questioning everything now because nothing is certain. They're questioning their relationships, they're questioning the stability of their jobs, they're questioning their health, how to live a healthy life, how to do work that is more prevention based instead of what we do a lot of times, which is maintenance. There are a lot of things that we never quite were, I think, aware of in terms of the functioning of our society, the best ways that we can maintain some balance or harmony, as I call it, between your personal life and your work life. And so to help people to slow down is actually more effort than you would imagine, because people have been conditioned over the last decade to really do more, to achieve higher goals, to be turned on all hours of the day and night. And that has, for me, been something I kind of foresaw would take a toll on people's mental health, because it's not sustainable to be on every day. Social media, work email, after work hours with email, responding to friends with text messages. That's not healthy for your brain, and it's definitely taxing on your body, and all of that is interconnected. So to get people to focus on the here and now,
Right.
and to identify what do they want to put their attention towards and how to make that priority number one and or two, has been a challenge. But I think that's what people have wanted. It's just that they didn't believe that they could get that.
Right. Right. So can you show us your book? Because it also serves as a workbook too, right?
Yeah, we're actually going to be doing a lot more with this book. So this is a guide really for people to ask themselves some hard questions, adulting as a millennial. I do a lot of work in the book to share my own personal anecdotes of what I did to become more successful in my relationships, in my career, and to accept the things that I did have growing up, and to be appreciative of those things too, because it made me who I was. So even if I didn't get everything from my parents, I definitely got a lot of things from the life that I've lived so far and other people around me.
And thank you for using the term success in relationships, because I think success is a word that is used loosely in the field of just gaining, right? In finances and or fame, which is, I'm going to assume, one of the topics you discuss within your book, because again, you're addressing the millennials and they're living this life, and I'm saying this just by observation. Of competition versus just focusing on self and developing self within authentic relationships versus these superficial relationships of what they're seeing virtually.
Absolutely. We want people to understand what a healthy relationship looks like. And that's partly what I offer in my coaching. And that takes work. It takes commitment to yourself, to set up clear boundaries with people, again, to be honest with people, and to work on your own enrichment. And that's going to ultimately lead you to healthier relationships with others.
Well, thank you. And thank you for bringing it to our audience. Asha Tarry, author of Adulting as a Millennial, a guide to everything your parents didn't teach you. That's available now on Amazon.com. And if you're interested on some coaching with Asha, you can visit lifecoachasha.com. We do have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll speak to a health advocate chef about some nutritional meals that you don't want to miss. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Open. It's officially the fall season and, well, what we would also consider officially flu season. And many people are looking to eat healthier, especially having to endure this pandemic we're still dealing with. Our next guest is a mother of 3 with 1 on the way, a chef, entrepreneur, health advocate, and owner of Divine Appetite, a platform she's been able to create and lead successful community food justice initiatives initiative since 2016. She's been offering free food education training to many local residents, and well, she's here joining us today to give us some nutritional tips for the fall. Please welcome Chef Marilyn. Hi, Chef Marilyn.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
That was a long introduction because I want everybody to get the gist of all the hats you're wearing. And I did mention that you have one on the way. Can we see your little belly there? Let me see. How far along are you? Woo! Look at you.
6 months.
6 months. And so I gotta say, we're in a place where at this point we need to arm ourselves. And the fact that you've chosen this path, which I mentioned prior to getting on air, it for me stands out as using health as your form of resistance. Let's elaborate a little further on how it is that you, I guess, got into diving into this so deeply, because it seems like this is your life. You eating, breathing, I mean, literally eating, but everything about your world revolves around this. So let's talk a little bit about how you were able to enhance your knowledge within using food as healing medicine.
So it's a very personal journey, because as a chef working in kitchens, I wasn't really learning how to eat healthy, just how to eat shiny, how to make things look exquisite. And I myself was infertile. I had polycystic ovary syndrome. I had epilepsy. I had all these ailments, and I'm popping pills, and I'm in my 20s. And I'm like, okay, I cannot enter my 30s. It was my goal. Like when I turned 30, 2008, I'm going to change. I'm not going to be on any meds. And so that's how the journey began, doing research, which Googling and research was a lot different. It was more like library time.
Right.
And so I just started doing my own research outside of cooking in the kitchen, and I started implementing that in my meals, in my sauces, and finding out ways to make things in a more natural, raw way, how to make fresh butter. Like, oh, so if I get fresher, if I eat certain things at certain times a year, they'll be fresher because I'm from the Bronx, you know what I mean? Right. When we think about the ruler of food scarcity, you know? So I didn't have the access to it. So right. I had to really educate myself outside of my community and then navigate my own community on how to make that happen.
Right. So I just want to acknowledge you for exactly the description you gave us in the research work that it entailed, because back then there was no Google, and then poof, the information was there. There was, I'm going to take the time to go to the library. I'm going to take the time to buy this book. I'm going to take the time to figure out how it is that I'm going to obtain this information. And now you're paying it forward or passing it forward by offering it to the community. So first question, are you med free?
Yes, I am.
Let's talk about that.
Yes, I am 100% medication free. I have not been on medication since 2008. I met that goal, and I'm so excited about it because I don't like to shame anyone that is on meds. But when we set a goal, I'm an example of someone who's having seizures since I was a preteen. So I know what it's like to walk around and feel like I'm not well, and it's so uncomfortable. It's disheartening to your spirit, to how you feel about yourself. So it's okay to just say, let me take a little leap, you know, and try a new route.
So aside from that condition, what I just picked up was that you're referencing the anxiety that you're walking around with. So are there any remedies that you can offer for anxiety? Because I know a lot of people are dealing with anxiety right now during this time. Like, are there any scents or food or herbs, or, I mean, aside from the fact that we do need to discuss things that we can implement into our diets to build our immune system. But let's talk a little bit about anxiety before we talk about the immune system.
So the first thing I would say is to first make a decision. Because I tell you, people go online, they try all this stuff, they empty out their refrigerator, and they back like, yeah, I went to the chicken spot. You know what I mean? Not knocking the chicken spot. I'm knocking the chicken spot. Yes, I am. But I'm just saying, I'm not knocking fried chicken. I'm just knocking the chicken spot. Okay. So I say first, just sit with yourself. That's what I had to do to see why. Not for vanity, not for pressure, but the why for yourself. And then once you go to the next level, something as simple as cilantro, that's in all our neighborhoods. You know, cilantro is extremely high in vitamin C, which is great for the endocrine system, which is great for the digestive system, which does what? It calms our hormones, because most of our hormones is right up in that belly, right? And guess what? Cilantro is also anti-convulsant. Like, you would never, like, no one tells you that. And we up in the kitchen chopping up our cilantro, living our best life. But instead of just throwing it when you just have your sofritos or you have your salad, let's just eat it raw. Throw it in a cup of water. You spoke of lemon water before in our earlier conversation. How about we just throw some cilantro inside there and just feel what that herb is, smell what that herb is.
So I want to make sure that we get in our conversation before this segment is over that you also design, you have these smoothies that you create, but really what stood out for me about the smoothies that you're making is that you do them seasonally according to the fruits that are in season, right? I noticed you had one with apples. This is apple picking season, and the consciousness of making sure that the finances stay locally. So let's talk about that really quickly, because they're like, oh, we're running out of time, and I'm like, no, we need to educate our community.
Yes, this right here is a smoothie. It doesn't, so the regular eye is like, ooh, that looks a little weird, but this is apples, pears. I put a little bit of lavender in there, another calming for anxiety, right? And I have a mix of my herbs. This is a blend of herbs. This one right here is called Elation, and it's a calming of the mood, balancing our mood. And we have things like nettle in there. You have fresh lavender in there. And now everyone doesn't have access to those extra things, but you do have access to pear, which is high in fiber. Pears are extremely high in fiber. They're high in vitamin C. They're great for your bone health. Anything that has a white inside is good for the bones. It has calcium. So now you do, instead of your apple a day, I got an apple a day and a pear a day up in there.
Right, and those additional ingredients, the lavender, like where would people buy them? Like where do you get them?
You can, now see, if I know this is a Bronx show, so I'm just going to slowly keep shining the light on y'all, because there's very few health food stores, but you can find one in a health food store, and you need to advocate with your local community board to say, I want to see more health food stores, because I'm sure there's people who want to open them, but you can go right on Amazon or online. But of course, I had to start with what's in the neighborhood that we're going to walk around and get
right
online. But you also can order it at divineappetite.com on my website and get you the blends already blended in a healthy way to drop up in your smoothie.
Oh, that's what's up. That was a good plug. But before we go, you're also offering classes, which they can also find on your website, right?
Yes. I offer cooking classes. I also work with organizations who hire me to teach the community, basically a food educators course. And I worked with their staff who want to get a serve safe or a safe handler's certificate from New York City, who want to be able to have these conversations with clients when they come sit with them, to teach them how to boost their immunity. This is what I do because it matters. All of us play a role in passing on this message. And I want to say again, it's not about vanity. It's not about how we look on the outside, but it's about the longevity of who we are on the inside.
That's right. It's about using food as medicine. That's the consciousness that we're opening up in today's discussion. Thank you for being with us, Chef Marilyn, everyone. And once again, if you want to participate in Chef Marilyn's fall soup cooking classes, soup, my fave, you can visit divineappetite.com and check her out on Instagram. You'll have a real fun time going through her videos. And that's Marilyn, at Marilyn the Chef. That's at Marilyn the Chef on Instagram. You guys don't go anywhere because Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.
One star running back is leaving town while another likely should have never left. Chase Edmonds grew up in PA, but he became a star at Fordham University in the Bronx. Now in the National Football League, Edmonds is still carving out a niche for himself with Arizona. But one thing is certain, every single time he comes to his old stomping grounds, Edmonds puts on a show. Now, the best game of his young career came last season at MetLife Stadium, 23 miles away from Fordham University, when he rushed for 126 yards and 3 scores in a victory over the New York Football Giants. Now, our Bronx State cameras were there to capture that one. Now, his statistics against the New York Jets last Sunday didn't match that performance against the Giants, but Edmonds' impact on the game did. He touched the ball 8 times on offense and accounted for 92 total yards, including a 29-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. More importantly, the Cards went on to win the game 30-10. Meantime, Gang Green's star running back has seen enough of the Jets, and the feeling appears to be mutual on the part of the organization. The Jets release Le'Veon Bell. The move concludes a 19-month tenure that was filled with disappointment and broken promises. Bell arrived as a marquee free agent in 2019, but just never seemed to click with head coach Adam Gase. Gase opposed the signing from the very outset of the move. The Jets are 0-5, a woeful 0-5. The Giants are a woeful 0-5 too. That's actually the first time in the history of these two teams that both teams are 0-5 to start the season at the very same time. Here's Gase following the tough loss to Arizona.
We got to play a full 60 minutes. We got to play more competitive for 60 minutes. We're letting it get away, at a certain point in the game. Those first 2 games, it's hard to even look at those, and those got away too early. And then these last 2, it's like we have an opportunity to swing the game, and we're not doing it.
The Giants were edged by Dallas last weekend despite the Cowboys losing star quarterback Dak Prescott to a season-ending ankle injury. The boys held on in the rivalry 37-34. Here's head coach Joe Judge.
Well, that's all that really matters to us, to be honest with you, is the progress we're making right now. Okay? The record will come, all right, in time. Obviously, we're not happy about losses. That's not what we do here. But I've seen a lot of progress on all fronts and all units. We have to keep making consistent progress to keep being a better team as the year goes.
We were extremely confident there with the ball, with the opportunity to go down and win the game, and felt like we'd moved the ball all game and been able to execute on offense. So we were confident. I was confident, and we got to do a better job there.
The Yankees did better in Game 4 of the American League Division Series, bouncing back after dropping 2 straight to rival Tampa Bay to force a decisive Game 5. That one turned out to be a pitching duel, and Garrett Cole did a pretty nice job on the mound for the Yanks. However, he left late with the game tied 1-1, and closer Aroldis Chapman, who entered early, gave up the eventual game-winning run on a solo homer in the 8th. We spoke with manager Aaron Boone and slugger Aaron Judge following the conclusion of the club's season.
It's awful. The ending is cruel, it really is. And so many people I'm grateful for that pour so much into this, from all the players, staff, clubhouse personnel, training staff, so many people that poured so much into this, and especially in such a crazy year.
There's a couple opportunities, looking back on the series that we had, runners on base, runners in certain situations, to either score, kind of keep the inning going and get some of their pitchers to throw some more pitches, and we just weren't able to capitalize.
We also got a chance to check in with General Manager Brian Cashman for his take on the shortened COVID season and his outlook for this upcoming offseason.
You got to play your best baseball when it counts in October. First, you got to earn the right to get there, which obviously we've been able to do for quite some time, and then navigate October against some really amazing opponents, and that means bringing your A game at all times, and we clearly were able to do that to some degree in the Cleveland series, and I think if you evaluate the performance levels, whether it's our hitters various pitchers in the division series against Tampa Bay. That didn't happen.
The Bronx Bombers came up just shy of being one of the Final Four teams in the hunt to win it all. That honor goes to Tampa and Houston in the American League, and Atlanta and the LA Dodgers in the National League. The champs of the NBA, well, it wasn't the Miami Heat in 7 as I predicted, but rather LeBron James and the LA Lakers in 6. Heat gave it their all, but ultimately King James and Anthony Davis were too much for Miami. The Lakers are back, baby. James wins his 4th Finals MVP, second most of all time to Michael Jordan and his 6-0 in the Finals for MJ. Perhaps more impressive for the King, though, he leads 3 different franchises to the promised land: Miami, Cleveland, and now the LA Lakers. After all, it's most fitting in this really, really rough year of 2020 to honor the late, great Kobe Bryant with a championship. His tragic passing in January spurred the Lakers the rest of the way. Actually, something I thought that would happen back then until I saw the Miami Heat so hot in the bubble in Orlando. LA is now tied with the Boston Celtics for most titles in league history. 17 championships for the Lakers and Celtics. Congrats to James and the Lakers. Congrats are also in order for Breanna Stewart and the Seattle Storm. 6 WNBA Finals games over 2 seasons, 2018 and 2020. 6 wins, no losses, 2 championships, 2 Finals MVP trophies. Stewart has picked up where she left off in college with 4 championships in 4 seasons at UConn, along with 4 awards for Most Outstanding Player in the Final Four. Cheers to the champs. Cheers to Breanna Stewart. Time for some quick hitters from around the world of sports. The Tennessee Titans are undefeated, 1 of 4 left in the NFL, yet they've accomplished that feat wrapped around a frightening novel coronavirus outbreak. When you compare the Titans to the other 3 unbeaten teams in the NFL, they aren't as explosive as Green Bay and Seattle. They don't have the tradition of Pittsburgh. The Titans are still really good, though, and at the same time, that's what's troubling about the league right now. That outbreak infected 13 players and 11 staff members. The Titans went 16 days between games. Then, in a makeshift Tuesday night football showdown of unbeaten teams, they stomped the Buffalo Bills 42-16. You just can't make this stuff up, folks. The same when it comes to saying goodbye to baseball legends in 2020. Add Hall of Fame second baseman Joe Morgan to that list. Morgan, a key member of the Cincinnati Reds' famed Big Red Machine, died Sunday. He was 77. A 2-time National League Most Valuable Player, a 10-time All-Star, and a 5-time Gold Glove Award winner. He is widely regarded as one of the best second basemen in baseball history. Gonna miss you, Joe. And we're gonna miss you too, Whitey. More on another baseball legend in the C-list. Man, heaven is having some Hall of Fame baseball game right now. Joe Morgan, Al Kaline, Tom Seaver, Lou Brock, Bob Gibson, and Whitey Ford. All have passed away in 2020. Edward Charles Whitey Ford was born on October 21st, 1928, and grew up in Queens, a native New Yorker. He made his major league debut for the Yankees in 1950 and spent his entire career in pinstripes, 16 years. 6-time World Series champion, 10-time All-Star, the chairman of the board, was one of the best lefties to ever toe the rubber in baseball history. No one has won more World Series games, 10, and likely no one ever will. Whitey was 91. When I was a kid, my mom would reward my good grades in school with baseball cards. Not any cards, legend cards. One of my first, Whitey Ford's last Topps card. I can see why now, Ma. Whitey Ford was the best of the best. Listen to these stats. Ford's career record, 236 career victories, 106 losses. The most wins in Yankee history. The lefty ace's career winning percentage, well, .690. 690 is the best for any pitcher with at least 300 career decisions. Ford was the Cy Young Award winner in 1961 when he was 25-4. He anchored that rotation on that great all-time great Yankee club, known more for the M&M boys, the home run chase of Babe Ruth, and that mighty lineup. Don't overlook that ace, though. That ace up the sleeve for the Yankees. Here's to you, chairman of the board. You will be missed. That's your sports. I'm Bobby C.
Our last guest is an Afro-Latina singer and songwriter from the South Bronx whose love for music started at the age of 10 and since has been able to create her own sound, incorporating the blues, alternative rock, and sounds of R&B. She founded the Bronx Noise, a space for women in the LGBT community to explore their musical gifts. And well, she's often referred to as the Dominican Alanis Morissette because of her vocal range. Please welcome Yurby. Hola.
Hello, how are you?
We are good. How are you?
Good, good. Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. So, my dear, congratulations on your single.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hands up.
Hands up. Out now, everywhere.
I know. I love the political statement behind it, but let's talk about the whole process because, I mean, well, this is a very interesting time to be producing anything outdoors and or just being amongst people and tapping into the reality that we're basically living and enduring for a little too long at this point.
Absolutely. So I was lucky that it was filmed last year, actually. It filmed last year in the summer, but for whatever reason, I couldn't get the film out as fast as I wanted to. There was editing involved, a computer had to be swiped, but it all worked out the way it should have because it's coming out now during a time where it's really a revolution that's happening, right?
Yes, it is a revolution. So what you're saying to me is that you filmed that whole concept and everything last year, and how interesting enough, how relevant, how more so relevant it is to this particular time. And it's unfortunate that we're still even dealing with the same situation and the systemic racism and the disparities and just the fact that we're still having a conversation about putting your hands up.
Exactly. And I filmed the video last year, but I wrote the song about 3 years ago. And I said to myself, oh, I hope this song is not going to be relevant, but it is. It still is. And it's something that I wanted to be a part of that conversation and how I felt, because I was growing up, there was an incident that happened to me and my family, and I was almost to be a victim of police brutality. But because we as Afro-Latinos, we just played by their rules, right. I should say. We didn't speak up. We were very shy, very cautious, that nothing happened to us, but that's not the case for many people.
Right, but at the end of the day, you're still being identified by the color of your skin.
Exactly.
No importa que es Latina, it's like the melanin, right? And it's unfortunate that we are still having this conversation. But I will say, I do appreciate the way you've chosen to use your voice, not just in vocals and your singing talent, just in the storyline, which I'm so happy to share with you guys. We're going to show you later. But let's talk about the next generation that you're also helping sort out this particular issue that it just pretty much seems to be part of our reality and has been for quite some time.
Well, I work with Usher's New Look. It's a nonprofit organization. We work with youth from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. And basically the gist of Usher's New Look is to share your spark and be authentic in who you are. And me being Afro-Latino, I want to share who I am. I want to share my spark. And through the company, we get to teach these kids, who you are is enough. You don't have to be afraid of who you are. You can share your talent. You can say, this is what my family does. This is how I see the world. And we want them to know that it's important to be who you are and say and to stand up for what you believe in, even if you're in a room full of people that may not look like you. You're still valuable.
Right. And so while I said you used your voice in this particular fashion, and now you're passing it on to the next generation through the musical talent, you're also enhancing their voices, rather, or enhancing their belief systems into understanding the value of their voice. And that also pertains to voting, right? Which I believe you're assisting with as well.
Yes, we are actually heading to events right now. So we're doing a campaign called I Can't But You Can't. Vote. And then now we're doing in Spanish, actually, it's Yo no puedo, pero tú sí puedes votar. And we're incorporating a conversation with the youth in the Dominican Republic and the youth in New York City. We want to know what are the youth doing in the Dominican Republic, and what are the youth doing in the United States to voice, what matters to them in their elections, in this election.
Right. Well, I would imagine living in a world where we don't have to concern ourselves with the speed in which we put our hands up, be determined whether we get to live or not. It's definitely at the top of the list as we prepare to introduce the presentation that you put together for us.
Awesome. Yes. And in the video, it was shot in the Bronx, and I had the pleasure of doing the art direction. And these were all friends of mine, artists who live in the Bronx. And in the video, you do not see a police officer. I was very specific in doing that because it's what I believe is that it is not about the police. It is about the human being who looks at another human being and doesn't recognize that they are human. And in the song, a lyric that I say, I was afraid that he wouldn't recognize that I'm human. Like, he tells me to get out of the car, but I'm afraid that I may not look like I'm human. Right. That's huge. And that's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. And I opened up with it saying, the determination is based on the shades, the different shades. But what I do love about it, which we're alluding to the actual video, is that you do empower community, because at the end of the day, the one who's holding space for all of us and each other is our community. So be a stand for your community is what I got from your video, and I hope everyone else is going to get it too. But do you have any last words before we throw to it?
The message at the end of the video, that's what I hope for everyone in the Bronx and everyone in the world, to just be together and to stand with each other and to lift each other up during these times.
Especially during these times. And thank you for producing such a beautiful video of hope and love, and for sharing your angelic voice and range. All right, you guys, all right, we're done teasing you. Let's check out the video that Yurby produced and sang in and art directed, our new single, Hands Up.
Oh, savages, we're criminals, domestic animals. And basically, I'm guilty before I speak. I'll be dead before I move. So live on the telephone, so I can show the world. I put my hands up slow, put my hands up slow. I put my hands up slow, but my skin is a weapon. They've already pulled the trigger, man. Skin is a weapon. They've already pulled the trigger, and you ready to see me fall? Yeah, you ready to see me fall? Oh no, you ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? Yeah, your fear is good intention, but you're not in the jungle. Let me hear explaining you were blinded by the monster, the media that haunts you, who made you more than human. But my skin is a weapon. They've already pulled the trigger, man. Skin is a weapon. They've already pulled the trigger, and you ready to see me fall? Yeah, you ready to see me fall? Oh no, you ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? Yeah.
And there you have it. That was Yurby's Hands Up. Here's to all of us being there to catch one another in that time of need. That was beautiful, Yurby.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I know you have some some events coming up that we wanted to make sure everybody was aware of. I mean, obviously they can see the video on YouTube and or on your Instagram page, but let's just share these events you have coming up for the next generation.
Sure. So Monday, November 16th, I'm going to be on the Radio Free Brooklyn on Junk and Jam. Stay tuned for that on linkage on my Instagram. And on November 18th, I'll be with the performing at the Grace Strong Foundation. It's a gala to support and raise awareness for Parkinson's disease.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. There's I guess that's our day and age tour, right? And of course, just being a stand for the next generation, as well as passing it forward and working as community, right? Even though it's in Pennsylvania, that's the world we're living in, the virtual community, we'll say.
Virtual community. It's a virtual tour.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing it to us and bringing it to our viewers. Of course, the whole thing was shot in the Bronx. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to watch it again, you can check her out on her Instagram, which is @Yurby Music. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recablecast tonight and 24 hours a day at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor. And I don't care what anybody says. Wear your mask, please, por favor.